I have an interesting story to tell about jury duty, my job of the day, if you will.
But before I do that, let me introduce you to a concept of which I felt it necessary to do relatively extensive research.
What is jury nullification, you ask? Jury nullification is the act of a jury returning a not guilty verdict despite believing that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecutors may use their discretion to decide whether to pursue charges when they anticipate the outcome of a case will be influenced by potential nullification. Some recent and historical cases illustrate the role of jury nullification in American courts. In 1850, the U.S. passed the Fugitive Slave Act, which required the return of escaped slaves. Juries in northern states would frequently engage in jury nullification to acquit those charged with harboring slaves.
All the way, baby, get up. No, don't just stay down and lift yourself up. Baby, baby, get up. So baby, get up. Don't just stay down. No. Yeah. Baby, get up.
Well, I'm heading home from jury duty, and just like this morning on the way in, it is inching along, so it's going to be a pretty long drive home. But I've got an interesting story to tell about jury duty because I've never heard of it ever happening before, and I certainly have never seen it. And so I look forward to laying that out for you guys on exactly what happened today.
Let me begin by describing the process of arriving for jury duty in Bexar County, Texas. On the card it states that prior to arrival, you need to go online and complete a survey. If you do not do this, then you will be prompted to enter a room with several laptop computers in order to do so. If you complete the survey ahead of time, then you will be prompted to have a seat in a very large room called the Central Jury Room. You are advised to arrive no later than 8 a.m. However, unfortunately, that will not mean that everything will proceed in a timely manner. While it was fresh on my mind at lunch, I recorded the timeline up to that point. Bear in mind that I spoke softly because of the instructions of no discussion of the process until we were released from jury duty.
8 o'clock report time. Judge swore in at 8:40. Released until 9:40 a.m. At 10:20, the first jury pool was called. Approximately a half hour after that, another jury pool was called, 75 members, and then a half hour after that, at around 11:20, the third jury pool was called, 75 on that one as well. I was number 14.
There are speakers throughout the building available to prompt jurors to return to the central jury room between jury calls. At that point, they have a list of potential jurors that are assigned to a specific courtroom. They call out these names by number with instructions on where to report. With a room of close to, if not more than 1,000 people, that process alone can be very tedious. I happen to be the 14th name called on the third list provided.
Please remember your number. It's going to be number 1 through 75, and please listen after your name. Okay, Alexander Seymour, you're number 1. Please make your way. Susana Palacios. Paulo Valdenegro is number 13. Then Jeff Stoops is number 14. Lilia Ayala is number 15.
Then, to add insult to injury, we were taken to a secluded hallway where an individual recalled every single one of the 75 names over again in order to ensure that we were in a specific order.
72, Thomas Oliver. 73, Alex Alvarado. 74, Julian Vargas. And 75, Rachel Mendoza.
After we were escorted to the hallway outside of the courtroom, we were once again placed in the same order by having that individual call out all 75 names again. We were then escorted into the courtroom where we were given extensive instructions on what was to happen throughout the day and then promptly released for lunch. After we returned from lunch, you guessed it, we were placed in the same order by having the individual count off all 75 names once again. At the risk of repeating myself, that happened at least 3 more times before the day was over.
Jury nullification continues to play a significant role in the criminal justice process for several reasons.
For the case in which I was being considered as a juror, the primary charge of which the defendant was accused was criminal sexual contact with a minor under the age of 14 years old, among other charges. By the way, that would have had to have happened over a 10-year period, which I deduced that it would have had to begin when the girl was 4 years old. Each charge had various potential sentences, and this is where the process became very interesting. The defendant elected a trial by jury that would also be responsible for sentencing if found guilty on any of the charges. The point that I found most intriguing was the initial tactic of the prosecution.
In some cases, prosecutors may overcharge defendants or pursue charges that appear to be politically motivated. Jurors may use nullification as a means to curb prosecutorial overreach.
However, after the prosecution gave a very vivid description of the charges, it was the defense attorney's voir dire that raised the most controversial response from the potential jurors. Interestingly enough, I saw the wheels turning even before I knew what to call it.
Some states, such as New Hampshire, have passed legislation explicitly acknowledging a juror's right to nullify and ensuring that judges inform juries of this right during trials. In contrast, other states require judges to provide limited instructions to jurors about their duty to apply the law as written, discouraging nullification. The courts in these states have determined that a defendant does not have a constitutional right to give the jury an instructions about nullification or to explicitly argue in favor of nullification.
What was the question, you ask? Well, if you recall, I mentioned that we were asked to step into the hall a few times during the process. Just prior to the last time, after several sidebars with the judge and prosecution, the defense attorney asked, how many of you could not follow the law and not consider the possibility of probation, which is a minimum sentence with a maximum of 5 years in prison if my client is convicted of this lesser charge? That bears repeating. How many of you could not follow the law and not consider the possibility of probation, which is a minimum sentence with a maximum of 5 years in prison if my client is convicted of this lesser charge? Almost 95% of the room raised their number, myself not included. We were then asked to leave the room, and in the hallway, I made the statement, the defense attorney just asked a question that will almost certainly lead to a mistrial, not knowing the correct term at the time. When we returned, the number identifiers were removed from our chairs, and the judge promptly dismissed us.
Use of jury nullification raises complex ethical dilemmas. While some view it as a form of civil disobedience and a safeguard against injustice, others argue that it can undermine the rule of law and erode respect for the judicial system. Controversies surrounding jury nullification include compromise of legal system. Some argue that nullification compromises the legal system's integrity, as jurors are sworn to apply the law and not engage in personal or moral judgments. Opponents of jury nullification contend that juries should apply the law as written, leaving questions of legality to the courts and legislatures rather than in the hands of citizens.
Leaving this place, the sun's about to break. You're riding shotgun. The feeling we chase, I'm wide awake. Take me away now. 'Cause I won't go down the same old path again now. No, I've been running out of air, so let me catch my breath. Feeling I've got's making me crazy. If I'm having a good time, don't you blame me. Yeah, this feeling I've got's making me crazy. Making me crazy. So I'm just gonna drive. I'm just gonna drive. I'm just gonna drive.
All the best. Always.
You wanna come down to the underground old school? There's a shovel. Can you dig it, fool? Can you dig it?